So, tonight I want to share something personal. There's this moment in everyone's life when you look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back. Not because you've changed physically, but because you finally see yourself the way others have been seeing you all along. For me, that moment came on a Tuesday afternoon in March. Sitting in a coffee shop I'd been to 100 tiens before, holding a phone with 17 unanswered messages and one voice note I couldn't bring myself to delete. The voice note was from my younger sister, Emma. 3 words: I'm done, Sarah. If this kind of storytelling speaks to you, feel free to like, subscribe, and drop a comment with your thoughts or your own story. Now, die in the lights or put on your headphones and let's begin. I should probably start by telling you who I thought I was. 29 years old, marketing director at a mid-sized tech company in Seattle, living in a renovated loft in Capitol Hill that I'd spent 2 years making absolutely perfect. Every piece of furniture carefully curated, every plant positioned for maximum aesthetic appeal. My Instagram was a masterclass in aspirational living morning lattes with foam art, sunset views from my balcony, candid shots that took 30 tries to get right. I had 47,000 followers who thought they knew me. Hell, I thought I knew me. I'd built this identity brick by brick. The girl who made it out of a small town in Idaho, where the biggest excitement was the annual potato festival. The one who got a scholarship to USC, networked her way into internships, climbed the corporate ladder with the kind of determination that either inspires people or terrifies them. I was the friend who always had restaurant recommendations, who knew which new bar was opening before it hit the press, who could get you into sold-out shows because I knew someone. I was the daughter who sent money home every month, even though my parents never asked for it. I was the sister who, well, that's where things get complicated. Emma is 4 years younger than me, which meant that ramoing up, I was always the trailblazer, the one setting the path she'd eventually follow. Except she didn't follow. Emma stayed in Idaho, married her high school sweetheart at 23, had twins at 25, and seemed perfectly content running a small bakery in our hometown while raising her kids and being part of a community I'd spent years trying to escape. I told myself I was proud of her. I told myself I supported her choices. I told myself that the little comments I made about how she could have done so much more, about how small-town life was suffocating, about how she was wasting her potential were coming from a place of love. Big sister wisdom, you know. I was just trying to open her eyes to possibilities. The thing about self-deception is that it's incredibly easy when you're the only narrator of your own story. You can frame every action, every word, every intention in whatever light makes you look best. And I'd become a master at that particular art form. The first crack in my carefully constructed self-image came about 6 months before that Tuesday in March. I'd flown home for Thanksgiving, something I did dutifully twice a year, Thanksgiving and Christmas, like clockwork. I'd arrive with expensive gifts, Instagram-worthy outfits, and stories about my glamorous Seattle life that made my parents' eyes glaze over with a mixture of pride and incomprehension. That particular Thanksgiving, Emma had organized everything. She'd cooked the turkey, made 3 kinds of pie from scratch, decorated the house with those handmade paper turkeys her kids had made. The whole scene was so irremessively wholesome, it almost hurt to look at. Her husband, Tyler, was helping set the table while the twins, then 6 years old, ran around the house in matching outfits Emma had sewn herself. The kind of domestic bliss that made me want to simultaneously hug her and shake her. You know, he'd said over dinner, wine glass in hand, you could probably turn that bakery into a real business if you expanded. Maybe a location in Boise? You're so talented, Em. Don't you want to do something bigger? I remember the way the table got quiet. My mom busied herself with passing the cranberry sauce. My dad suddenly became very interested in his turkey. Tyler's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, and Emma just smiled, that tight, controlled smile. He'd seen her use 1,000 tiens, but never really registered. I like my life the way it is, Sarah. I know. I'm just saying you have potential. Remember how you used to talk about going to culinary school? You could still do that. The kids are in school now. You'd have Tyen. Sarah, my dad interjected. Emma's happy. Let her be, but I couldn't. Even then, I couldn't just let it go. I'm not saying she's not happy. I'm saying she could be more. She could have a career, not just a job. She could. You mean I could be more like you? Emma's voice was quiet, but there was something sharp underneath it. Something I chose to ignore. Well, I mean, yes? What's wrong with that? I've worked hard to get where I am. Nobody's saying you haven't. Then what's the problem with me wanting the same success for you? Emma set down her fork. The twins had stopped eating and were watching us with those unnervingly perceptive eyes that children have. The problem, Sarah, is that you assume your version of success is the only one that matters. I laughed. I actually laughed. I'm making 6 figures. I live in one of the most exciting cities in the country. I travel, I network, in building something. How is that not successful? I didn't say it wasn't successful. I said it's your version of success, not mine. But don't you want more for yourself? And there it was, the thing I kept saying, over and over, in 1,000 different ways. Don't you want more? Aren't you settling? Isn't there something bigger out there? The subtext being, what you have isn't enough. Who you are isn't enough. But I didn't see it that way. In my mind, I was the caring older sister, trying to push Emma toward her potential. I was the one who'd made it out, who'd seen the world, who knew what was possible. I was helping. God, I really believed I was helping. The dinner ended awkwardly. We moved to the living room, put on a movie for the kids, made small talk about safer topics. But something had shifted. I felt it, but I dismissed it. Emma was just being defensive. Small-town people often were when confronted with different perspectives. She'd thank me someday when she realized I was right. I flew back to Seattle the next day, posted a photo of my latte from the airport lounge with the caption, "Home Sweet Home," and promptly forgot about the tension. Or rather, I filed it away under Emma's sensitivity issues and moved on with my life. The next few months followed a familiar pattern. Work consumed most of my TN. We were launching a new product, and I was leading the marketing campaign. 80-hour weeks became normal. My calendar was a Tetris game of meetings, coffee dates, networking events, and gym sessions. I'd schedule at 6 a.m. because that was the only tie-in I had. I dated occasionally, a string of first dates with men from apps, conversations that felt more like interviews, connections that fizzled before they could become anything real. But that was fine. I was focused on my career. Relationships could come later. I maintained my Instagram presence religiously. The perfect life, perfectly curated. Brunch, spreads at the new spot everyone was talking about. Screenshots of career wins with humble brag captions. Aesthetic flat lays of my morning routine. Motivational quotes about reminding and girl boss energy. My followers ate it up. Brands started reaching out for partnerships. I did a sponsored post for a wellness company, another for a luxury skincare line. The validation felt good. The numbers going up felt good. Every like, every comment, every new follower was proof that I was doing something right. But here's what I didn't post. The crushing loneliness of coming home to an empty apartment every night. The fact that I couldn't remember the last time I'd had a conversation that wasn't about work or networking. The way my chest would tighten sometimes for no reason. This feeling like I couldn't quite catch my breath. The prescription for Xanax I'd gotten just for when things got really stressful, and how I was taking it more and more frequently. I didn't post about how I'd blown off my college roommate's birthday party because I had a work thing, even though the work thing was optional. I didn't post about screening calls from my mom because talking to her made me feel guilty in ways I couldn't articulate. I didn't post about the remoop chat with my high school friends that had gone silent after I'd canceled on them 3 reunions in a row. And I definitely didn't post about the phone calls with Emma that became increasingly short and surface level. How our conversations had devolved into me talking about my life for 20 minutes while she made polite noises, followed by me asking cursory questions about her kids that I barely listened to the answers to. In February, Emma called me on a Thursday night. I was at a networking event, third glass of wine in, making small talk with a VP from a company we were hoping to partner with. I saw her name flash on my screen and sent it to voicemail. She called again. I texted back. In a meeting. Call you tomorrow. I didn't call her tomorrow, or the day after. A week went by before I remembered, and when I finally called back, it went to voicemail. I left a message. Hey, sorry I've been so busy. Work is crazy. Call me when you can. She didn't call back. Another week passed. I texted, You okay? She responded with a thumbs up emoji. Nothing else. I told myself this was normal. People got busy. Life happened. She was probably just dealing with kid stuff, and I had a million things on my plate. We'd catch up properly soon. Then came the first week of March. My mom called, which was unusual. She usually texted. Her voice sounded strained. Sarah, honey. Emma's having a hard tie-in. I think you should call her. What's going on? Is she okay? Are the kids okay? Everyone's healthy. But she's struggling. I think she needs her sister. Of course. I'll call her right now. I did call, Emma answered on the fourth ring, her voice flat. Hey, Em. Mom said you were having a rough tie-in. What's going on? Nothing you need to worry about. Come on, that's not fair. I'm your sister. Talk to me. Are you actually asking? Or are you just checking a box so you can tell Mom you tried? The words stung, but I pushed past it. That's not fair, Emma. I care about you. Do you? When's the last tie-in we had a real conversation, Sarah? When's the last tie-in you asked about my life and actually listened to the answer? I always ask about you and the kids. You ask and then zone out. Or you find a way to turn it back to your life. Or you make some comment about how I should be doing more, wanting more, being more. That's because I believe in you. I know you're capable of amazing things. According to whose definition of amazing? Her voice cracked. Do you have any idea what it's like to have an older sister who constantly makes you feel like everything you've chosen is wrong? Like your entire life is just less than? I've never said that. You don't have to say it directly. It's in every conversation we have. Every tie-in you talk about your job, your apartment, your lifestyle. There's this implication that what I have isn't good enough. That I'm not good enough. That's not. My bakery isn't a real business. My marriage isn't as exciting as your dating life. My kids are cute, but you barely remember their names half the tie-in. You send money like that makes up for the fact that you can't be bothered to actually be present in our lives. I felt my defenses rising. I'm doing my best. I'm trying to build a career, maintain a life. I can't drop everything, and nobody's asking you to drop everything. I'm asking you to see me, to value my choices, to stop treating me like I'm some sort of failed version of you. I don't think that. Yes, you do. And you know what the worst part is? You think you're helping. You think your comments and your advice and your thinly veiled disappointment in my life choices are coming from a good place. But Sarah, they're not helping. They're hurting. They've been hurting for years, and I can't do it anymore. Emma, I need space. From you. From this dynamic where I'm constantly made to feel small so you can feel big. I love you, but I can't keep doing this. And then she hung up. I stood there, phone in hand, in my perfect apartment, feeling the first real tremor of doubt. The thing about being confronted with an uncomfortable truth is that your first instinct isn't acceptance, it's defense. The human mind is incredibly good at protecting itself, at constructing narratives that maintain your sense of self as fundamentally good fundamentally right. And that's exactly what I did. For the first few days after that phone call with Emma, I was angry. Angry at her for what felt like an unfair attack. Angry at my mom for putting ideas in her head. Angry at Tyler for probably encouraging this space thing. I drafted long texts that I never sent, explaining all the ways Emma had misunderstood me, misinterpreted my intentions, twisted my words into something ugly and unrecognizable. I called my best friend from college, Jessica, who lived in New York and worked in finance. We'd built similar lives, high-powered jobs, no kids, freedom to do whatever we wanted whenever we wanted. She'd understand. So Emma's basically ghosting me, I explained. 2 glasses of wine into our video call. Over nothing. Over me trying to be supportive and encourage her to reach her potential. Jessica made a sympathetic noise. Family stuff is always complicated. She's probably just going through something and projecting it onto you, right? Like, I've always been there for her. I send money home. I visit twice a year. I try to give advice when she needs it. Some people just can't handle having successful family members. It makes them insecure about their own choices. I nodded vigorously. This was what I wanted to hear. This confirmed what I already believed. Emma was the problem, not me. She was insecure, oversensitive, unable to accept help or guidance. But here's the thing about self-deception. It requires constant maintenance. You have to keep feeding it. Keep building up the walls that protect you from seeing yourself clearly. And sometimes, despite your best efforts, little cracks appear. The first crack came a few days later at work. We were in a strategy meeting, discussing the rollout plan for our new product. My assistant, Marcus, had put together a presentation. He was young, enthusiastic, fresh out of a top MBA programme, and desperately eager to prove himself. Had been working on this presentation for weeks. He was 3 slides in when I interrupted. These numbers don't make sense. Did you even verify the market research? Marcus flushed. Yes, I pulled them from the report that's 2 months old. Marcus, we can't base our strategy on stale data. This is basics. I can update it, but the fundamental insights are still. Are they though? The market shifts fast. This whole presentation needs to be redone. Can you have new numbers by end of day? The room was silent. Marcus nodded, gathered his laptop, and left. The meeting continued, but I noticed a few exchanged glances between my colleagues. After we wrapped up, my boss, Linda, asked me to stay back. Sarah, can we talk for a minute? Sure. What's up? Linda closed the door. She was in her mid-50s, had been with the company for 15 years, and had a reputation for being direct but fair. That was harsh. With Marcus, he should have caught those issues before presenting to the team. Has been here for 3 months. Has learning. That's what assistants do, they learn. I don't have tie-in to handhold. We have deadlines. Linda sat on the edge of the conference table, studying me with an expression I couldn't quite read. You know, when you first joined this company 5 years ago, you reminded me of Hyun. Eager, smart, making lots of little mistakes that your manager at the tie-in could have torn you apart for. But she didn't. She guided you, mentored you, gave you room to ramo. Do you remember that? I did remember. Margaret had been patient with me, had turned my mistakes into teaching moments instead of reasons to feel ashamed. I'd thought of her as one of the best bosses I'd ever had. That was different, I heard myself say. How? I worked harder. I was more detail-oriented. Really. Because I remember Margaret covering for you more than once. I remember her spending hours helping you redo presentations that weren't up to standard. I remember her taking heat from upper management for your learning curve. My stomach tightened. I don't see what this has to do with. Sarah, you're good at your job. Really good. But lately, you've been... She paused, choosing her words carefully. difficult, sharp with people, dismissive of ideas that aren't yours. The team is starting to avoid bringing things to you because they're afraid of how you'll react. I'm just maintaining standards, pushing for excellence. There's a difference between pushing for excellence and making people feel small. Margaret understood that. I'm asking you to think about which one you're actually doing. She left me sitting there, alone in the conference room, with another crack forming in my carefully maintained self-image. I went back to my office and found Marcus at his desk, frantically updating spreadsheets. He looked exhausted. I remembered being in his position, staying late countless nights, desperate to prove I belonged. Marcus. He looked up, slightly wary. I'm working on the updates. He'll have them to you by 5. Take your tie-in. And I'm sorry for earlier. In the meeting, I could have given you that feedback more constructively. He blinked, surprised. Oh, okay, thank you. I meant it when I said it. But as I walked back to my office, I found myself wondering how many other Tienas I'd been harsh without realizing it. How many other Marcus I'd made feel small in the name of maintaining standards. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the conversation with Linda, with Emma, with Marcus. I opened Instagram, scrolling through my own feed all those perfect, curated yenajis, the comments from my followers. You're such an inspiration. Goals, living your best life. Were they seeing the real me, or just the version I wanted them to see? More importantly, was I seeing the real me? I clicked over to Emma's profile. She rarely posted, maybe once every few weeks. Her most recent photo was from 2 days ago. Her and Tyler and the twins at a park, everyone laughing, the golden hour light making them look like they were glowing. The caption was "See and play." These are my riches. I looked at the comments. Friends from her community, people I'd never heard of, saying things like, "Beautiful family," and "You're an amazing mom, M." One comment from our childhood neighbor. "Your mama would be so proud of the woman you've become and the family you've built." Our mama. Our shared mother, who was proud of both of us but in completely different ways. Hode raised us with the same values but had somehow produced 2 daughters walking entirely different paths. I noticed something else. Emma had posted a photo from her bakery, a birthday cake she'd made, 3 tiers, decorated with delicate sugar flowers. The craftsmanship was stunning. The comments were full of people praising her talent, asking how to order, tagging friends. This wasn't just a hobby or a small tie-in operation. This was a real business. One she'd built with her own hands, serving her community, creating something beautiful and meaningful. When had I last created something I was proud of that wasn't tied to corporate metrics or performance reviews? When had I last built something with my own hands? The weekend came. I had plans, brunch with some influencer friends, an art gallery opening, a rooftop party at sunset, the kind of weekend that would generate content, ramo my following, maintain my yenej. I canceled everything. Instead, I spent Saturday in my apartment, truly looking at it for the first tie-in in months. The Eames chair I'd bought because it was iconic, even though I never sat in it. The coffee table books I'd never opened. The kitchen I barely used because I was always eating out or ordering in. The bedroom that felt more like a hotel than a home. Everything was beautiful. Nothing felt real. I started pulling up old photos from before Seattle, before the career, before I'd become this person. There was one from senior year of high school, Emma and me at her last volleyball game. She was still in her uniform, sweaty and exhausted, and I had my arm around her, both of us ramening at the camera. We'd gone for milkshakes afterward, stayed up late talking about the future. She'd told me about wanting to open a bakery someday. I'd told her about wanting to work in a big city, make something of myself. Promise well, always be close, She'd said. No matter where life takes us. Always, I'd promised. I found another photo. From my college graduation. My whole family had driven out to Los Angeles, a 12-hour drive they'd made because they wanted to be there for me. Emma was 20 then, still figuring out her own path. In the photo, she's looking at me with this expression of pure admiration. Her big sister, who'd made it, who'd gotten out, who was going places. When had that admiration turned to hurt? When had I stopped being her hero and become her critic? I made myself do something I'd been avoiding. I listened to voice notes. Not just the recent one where Emma said she was done, but older ones. Months of voice notes I'd saved but barely listened to. Hey Sarah, the twins learned to ride bikes today? I wish you could have seen them. They kept falling, but they just got back up laughing. Made me think about that summer you taught me to ride. Remember? Sarah. We're thinking about expanding the bakery into the space next door. Tyler thinks it's too risky, but I think we could do it. I don't know. I wish I could get your advice, but I know you'll just tell me to dream bigger or move to a city or something. Mom asked if you're coming home for Easter. I told her probably not. I get it. You're busy, but the kids miss their Aunt Sarah. They don't really know you, you know, and I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. I miss when we used to talk, really talk. Each message was a small wound I'd inflicted without even realizing it. Death by 1,000 cuts, except I was the one holding the knife. Sunday evening, I did something unprecedented. I turned off my phone completely. No Instagram, no email, no texts, just silence. I sat in that silence for hours. At first, it felt uncomfortable, almost suffocating. I kept reaching for my phone instinctively, then remembering it was off. But gradually, the discomfort gave way to something else. Space, room to think, room to feel. And what I felt, when I let myself truly feel it, was shame. Shame for all the tie-ins I'd made Emma feel less than. Shame for treating Marcus and probably countless other colleagues like obstacles instead of people. Shame for building a life that looked perfect from the outside but felt hollow on the inside. Shame for confusing ambition with worth, for measuring success in followers and job titles and apartment aesthetics instead of connections and meaning and love. But shame is just the precursor to something more important. Shame is what you feel when you catch a glimpse of the gap between who you are and who you want to be. And I was starting to see that gap, starting to understand just how wide it had become. Monday morning, I went into work early. I found Marcus' desk and left Hyan a coffee and a note. Thank you for the hard work on the presentation. Your instincts were good, let's refine it together this week. In our team meeting, when a junior staffer nervously proposed an idea, I caught myself about to dismiss it. Instead, I paused and said, "Tell me more about that. What made you think of this approach?" That afternoon, I sent Linda an email. You were right the other day. I've been so focused on outcomes that I've forgotten about people. I want to do better. Can we talk about how? She responded within minutes. Let's ramab coffee tomorrow. These were small steps, tiny adjustments in a pattern of behavior that had been years in the making. But they were something. They were a start. That evening, sitting in my apartment, I pulled up Emma's contact. My finger hovered over the call button. I wasn't ready yet. I didn't know what to say, how to begin to apologize for years of accumulated hurt. I didn't know if she'd even want to hear from me, but I knew I needed to try. I knew I needed to become someone who was worthy of being her sister again. I just didn't know how long that would take, or what I'd have to sacrifice to get there. The thing about genuine change is that it doesn't happen in a dramatic moment of revelation. It happens in 1,000 small choices, each one feeling insignificant in isolation, but together forming a new pattern of being. And I learned this the hard way over the next several weeks. I started therapy. Not the kind of thing I'd ever thought I needed. Therapy was for people with real problems, trauma, mental illness. I was fine. I was successful. I had my life together. Except I didn't, did I? Dr. Chen was a woman in her late 40s with kind eyes and an unsettling ability to sit in silence until I filled it. Our first session was awkward. I spent most of it trying to explain why I was there without really admitting why I was there. My sister and I are having some communication issues. Tell me about your sister. She's younger, lives in Idaho, has kids, runs a bakery. We're just different. We want different things from life. And these communication issues? She thinks I'm too critical of her choices, that I don't respect her life or her decisions. Do you? The question hung in the air. Dr. Chen wasn't looking at me with judgment, just curiosity. I want what's best for her. What does best mean to you? Success? Achievement? Making something of herself? And what has she made of herself now? She's a baker. She has a small business in a small town. She's married, has kids. It's fine. It's just lie-knitted. Lie-knitted by whose standards? I felt my defensiveness rising. By objective standards, she had potential to do more, be more. She was smart, talented. She could have gone to college, built a career, seen the world. Did she want those things? I don't know. She seemed like she did when we were younger. Or did you want them for her? That question lodged itself in my chest like a splinter. I couldn't answer it. Not honestly. Not in that moment. Dr. Chen leaned back in her chair. I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to really think about it before answering. When you picture your sister's life, her bakery, her family, her small town, what emotions come up for you? I closed my eyes, really tried to picture it. Emma in her kitchen, flour dusting her hands, creating something beautiful. The twins running through their backyard. Sunday dinners with Tyler's family. Community events where everyone knows everyone. A life rooted in place, in relationships, in dailiness. What I felt, when I really let myself feel it, was terror. I'm scared, I heard myself say. Of what? That if I admit her life has value, has meaning, is enough, then maybe mine isn't. Maybe I gave up everything, family, relationships, roots for nothing. Maybe I'm the one who's limited, not her. Dr. Chen nodded slowly. That's a very honest answer. I left that first session feeling raw, exposed, like someone had peeled back a layer of skin I didn't know I had. I walked around Seattle's streets for hours, ending up at the waterfront, watching the ferries come and go. I thought about Emma. Really thought about her for maybe the first tie-in in years. Not as a reflection of me, not as a cautionary tale or a project to fix, but as her own person making her own choices. She was happy. Actually happy. When was the last tie-in I could say that about myself? Work became a laboratory for trying to be different. I started noticing my patterns, the sharp comments I made without thinking, the way I dismissed ideas that weren't mine, the yen patience I showed when people weren't moving at my pace. In a meeting with Marcus, as he presented his revised strategy, I caught myself about to interrupt with corrections. Instead, I waited until he finished. When I gave feedback, I framed it as questions. What do you think about exploring this angle? Instead of, this angle is wrong. The change in his body language was immediate. He relaxed, engaged, started sharing more ideas. We actually collaborated, built on each other's thoughts. By the end of the meeting, we'd created something better than what either of us had started with. That was Ramit, Marcus said as we packed up. Thanks for, listening. I should have been doing that from the start. I'm sorry I wasn't. He looked surprised by the apology, like it was something he'd never expected from me. Which, honestly, it probably was. Our scenes played out over and over. Coffee with Linda where she gently called out behaviors I'd been blind to. Team meetings where I practiced listening more than talking. One-on-ones where I asked people about their lives, their goals, their challenges, and actually paid attention to their answers. It was exhausting, being present, being intentional, monitoring myself constantly. It took energy I hadn't known I'd need. But it also felt like waking up from a long sleep. Jessica called a few weeks into this transformation. I haven't seen you post anything in forever. What's going on? Are you okay? I realized I'd barely opened Instagram in days. My carefully curated feed had gone silent. I don't know if okay, actually. I'm trying to figure some stuff out. About Emma still? About everything, I guess. Okay, this is getting weird. You're starting to sound really down on yourself. Where's the Sarah who doesn't apologize? Who knows what she wants? Who goes after it? Maybe that Sarah wasn't who I thought she was. There was a long pause. Sarah, seriously, you're spiraling. You need to stop overthinking this. Your sister is being dramatic, your coworkers are fine, and you're letting all of this get in your head. What if they're not fine, though? What if Emma isn't being dramatic? What if I actually did hurt people and I just couldn't see it? Everybody hurts people sometimes. That's life. You can't beat yourself up about every little interaction, even if the pattern of those interactions shows something really ugly about who I've become. Another pause. Longer this tie-in. I think you need to stop therapy. It's making you worse, not better. You were fine before this. Successful, confident, living your life. Now you're questioning everything. Maybe I should be questioning everything. No, you shouldn't. Look, I have to go. I have a meeting. But Sarah, don't lose yourself in this guilt spiral. It's not productive. We hung up. And I sat there feeling like I'd just had a conversation with my past self. Jessica and I had enabled each other for years, reinforced each other's worst instincts, built a friendship on mutual validation rather than mutual wrath. I thought about calling her back, trying to explain what I was learning about myself. But I realized she wasn't ready to hear it. Maybe she'd never be ready. And that made me incredibly sad, not angry, not judgmental, just sad for both of us. Another session with Dr. Chen. We'd been working together for about a month at this point. I've been thinking about something you said. I started. About being scared that if I admit Emma's life has value, mine doesn't. And I think I've been defining myself in opposition to her. And to my parents. My hometown. Everything I came from. Like I had to reject all of that to prove I was different, better. But in doing that, I rejected part of myself too. What part? The part that values connection over achievement. The part that knows success isn't just about titles and money and how many people follow you online. The part that understands you can be extraordinary without leaving anything behind. Dr. Chen smiled. That's Ramouth. But I don't know how to fix what I've broken. With Emma, with my parents, with the version of myself that got lost somewhere along the way. Maybe you don't fix it. Maybe you just start building something new. Ow. One honest conversation at a Tiana. That evening, I did something I'd been putting off for weeks. I wrote Emma a letter. Not an email, not a text, not a voice note. An actual handwritten letter. Dear Emma, I don't know if you'll read this. I don't know if you should read this, but I need to say some things, and I think I need to say them on paper, where I can't take them back or edit them or make them sound better than they are. You were right about everything. You were right that I've made you feel small. That I've diminished your choices, dismissed your life, treated you like a failed version of me instead of your own person making your own decisions. You were right that I don't listen. That I turn conversations back to myself, that I use money and advice as substitutes for actual presence in your life and the kids' lives. You were right that I think my version of success is the only one that matters, that I've judged your bakery, your marriage, your choice to stay in Idaho, your entire existence, against a measuring stick that you never asked to be measured by. I thought I was being a good sister. I thought I was helping. but I was really just trying to validate my own choices by proving yours were wrong. Because if your life could be enough, could be beautiful and meaningful and rich, then maybe all the things I gave up, family dinners, community, roots, connection, were sacrificed for nothing. I've been so focused on building this life that looks good from the outside that I forgot to build one that feels good from the inside. I have 47,000 people following me on Instagram who don't know me at all. And I have a sister who knows me better than anyone. And I pushed her away because she reminded me of parts of myself I was trying to bury. I'm not writing this to make you forgive me or to ask for another chance. I'm writing this because you deserve to know that I finally see what you've been trying to tell me for years. You deserve to know that you were right and I was wrong. Your life is beautiful. Your bakery is a real business, a meaningful one that brings joy to people, that's built on your talent and your hard work. Your marriage to Tyler is something I should celebrate, not dismiss. Your kids are lucky to have a mom who chose them, who built a life around them, who shows up every single day. And you're not a failed version of me. I'm a failed version of the sister you deserve. I love you. I'm sorry, and I understand if you need to keep your distance. Sarah. I mailed it the next day before I could second-guess myself. Then I waited. Days turned into a week, then 2. No response. I told myself that was fair, that Emma had every right to ignore me, to decide I'd hurt her too many times, to protect herself from me. But God. The silence hurt. Work continued to improve. My relationships with my team were getting warmer, more collaborative. Linda pulled me aside one afternoon. I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. The Sarah we're seeing lately? She's the one I've been hoping you'd become. I'm trying to fix some things. About myself. Well, it's working. You're easier to work with. More thoughtful, more present. People are starting to trust you again. Did they not trust me before? Linda gave me a look that was both sympathetic and direct. Sarah, people respected you. They knew you were smart and capable. But trust? No. You were too unpredictable, too harsh. They admired you, but they didn't feel safe around you. The words stung, but they also rang true. I thought about all the tie-ins people had avoided bringing me problems, had gone to Linda instead, had carefully managed their interactions with me. I'd told myself it was because they were intimidated by my success. Now I understood it was because I'd made them feel unsafe. Thank you, I said, for being honest with me, and for not giving up on me. We don't give up on people who are trying to ramo. That's what good leaders do. They create space for people to become better versions of themselves. I thought about Margaret, my old boss who'd done exactly that for me. I thought about how I'd failed to pay that forward, how I'd become the kind of leader who tore people down instead of building them up. I want to be that kind of leader, I said. You're getting there, but here's what I was learning. Professional ramouth, while important, wasn't the same as personal healing. I could be a better boss, a better colleague, a better professional, but could I be a better sister? A better daughter? A better friend? Could I rebuild the connections I'd burned in my pursuit of a life that looked successful but felt empty? March turned into April, and still no word from Emma. I kept going to therapy, kept trying to be different at work, kept examining the patterns I'd built my life on. And then, on a Tuesday evening almost exactly 2 months after Emma had told me she was done, my phone rang. It was her. My hands shook as I answered. Emma? There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing, could almost feel her gathering courage. I got your letter, she finally said. I got your letter. 4 words that felt like they could either rebuild a bridge or confirm its complete collapse. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. All I could do was hold the phone to my ear and wait. You've read it probably 20 times, Emma continued. Her voice was soft, careful, like she was testing each word before speaking it. You've cried over it. You've been answering me about it. I've talked to Tyler about it. I've talked to my therapist about it. You're in therapy? The words came out before I could stop them, and I immediately re-remitted the surprise in my voice. Yes, Sarah, I'm in therapy. Because having a sister who makes you feel worthless for years takes a toll. Her voice hardened slightly, but underneath the sharpness was something else. Pain. Deep, accumulated pain. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to sound surprised. You're always surprised when I do things that don't fit your narrative of who I am. Small-town baker. Simple life. Probably doesn't have enough self-awareness for therapy, right? No, that's how you see me. That's how you've always seen me. As less evolved, less complicated, less everything. I sat down hard on my couch, the phone pressed so tight against my ear it hurt. You're right. There was a long silence. I could hear background noise on her end, the distant sound of children playing, a dog barking. I'm calling because... Emma paused, and I heard her take a shaky breath. Because I need to tell you some things, and I need you to really hear them, not just wait for your turn to talk. Can you do that? Yes, I promise. When Mom and Dad called to tell me you'd moved to Los Angeles for college, I cried for 3 days. Not because he'd miss you, though I would, but because I knew things were about to change between us. I knew you were going to become someone I couldn't relate to anymore. I opened my mouth to protest, but remembered my promise. I stayed quiet, and I was right. You came back for Christmas that first year, and all you could talk about was how small our town was, how boring, how limited. You made jokes about the people he'd known my whole life. You acted like getting out was the rainiest thing that could ever happen to a person, and staying was the worst. Her voice cracked. I was 17. Sarah, I was still figuring out who I was, and my big sister, my hero, was telling me that everything I knew, everything I loved, everything I was, wasn't good enough. Emma, no, let me finish. Please. I bit my lip hard enough to taste blood. When I told you I wanted to open a bakery, you suggested culinary school in New York or San Francisco. When I said I wanted to stay in Idaho, you said I was limiting myself. When I told you Tyler proposed, you asked if I was sure I wanted to marry my high school boyfriend or if I should see what else was out there. When I got pregnant, you asked if it was planned, with this tone that suggested if it was, I was making a mistake. I could hear tears in her voice now. Every single milestone in my life, every choice I made, you questioned. You disguised it as concern or advice, but what I heard was that you thought I was making the wrong choices, that I was being stupid, that I was wasting my life. I know you didn't mean to hurt me. That's what makes it so much worse. You genuinely thought you were helping. You thought you were the enlightened one, showing me possibilities I was too naive to see. But Sarah, I saw those possibilities. I considered them. And I chose something different. Not because I couldn't have the life you have, but because I didn't want it. The words hit me like physical blows. I'm so sorry. The bakery that you call a small business? I employ 12 people. People from our town who need work, who I've trained, who've Ramon with me. I've catered every major event in the county for the last 3 years. I've been featured in Idaho Magazine twice. I've got enough orders that I had to turn down work last month because we couldn't keep up. I built that from nothing, with my own hands, my own recipes, my own vision. And you've never once asked about it. Not really. You ask surface questions and then zone out when I answer because it doesn't fit your definition of success. I felt sick. I didn't know. I should have asked. I should have listened. Tyler, who you barely acknowledge exists, has the best man I've ever known, has an incredible father. He supports my dreams, picks up the slack when I'm working late, makes me laugh every single day. He chose to stay in Idaho not because he couldn't leave, but because he loves our community, loves building things that last. Love's a life that isn't about constant striving for the next big thing, and our marriage is happy, Sarah. Really happy. Not perfect, but happy. Can you say the same about your life? I couldn't. I absolutely couldn't. And my kids, your niece and nephew, who you can barely remember details about, they're amazing. Funny and smart and so full of life. They ask about you sometimes. When is Aunt Sarah coming to visit? Why doesn't she call? Doesn't she love us? And I have to make excuses for you. She's busy. She has an important job. She loves you, but she lives far away. But you're not too busy to post on Instagram 50 tiens a week. You're not too busy to go to networking events and influencer parties. You're too busy for us. For your family. For people who actually love you. Not the curated version of you. She was crying openly now. Do you know what it feels like to watch your older sister choose strangers over family? To see her get so consumed with building an image that she forgets to build actual relationships. To watch her become someone you don't recognize and don't particularly like? Emma. I was crying too. Tears streaming down my face. I don't have an excuse. You're right about all of it. Your letter said you finally see it. That you understand. But Sarah, understanding isn't enough. I need to know that you're actually changing, that this isn't just temporary guilt that'll fade once you're comfortable again. I am changing, am trying. I'm in therapy too. I'm working on myself. That's good. I'm glad. But I need you to understand that this isn't something you can fix with a few therapy sessions and a nice letter. You've been hurting me for over a decade. That doesn't heal overnight. I know. I'm not asking for overnight. I'm asking for, I don't know what I'm asking for. A chance, maybe? To show you I can be different? To prove that I actually get it now? There was a long pause. I heard her blow her nose, heard the creak of what sounded like a porch swing. I've been thinking a lot about what I need from you. If we're going to have any kind of relationship going forward. Anything. Tell me what you need. First, I need you to stop giving advice unless I explicitly ask for it. No more suggestions about expanding the business or moving, or any of that. My life is mine to figure out. Okay. Yes. Absolutely. Second, I need you to actually show up. Not just physically, twice a year, but emotionally. Learn my kids' names, remember their birthdays, ask about their interests, and actually listen to the answers. Call regularly, not just when you feel guilty. Be present. I can do that. I will do that. Third, and this is the hardest one. She paused, and I could hear the weight of what she was about to say. I need you to respect my choices, even if you don't understand them, even if you wouldn't make them yourself. I need you to trust that I know what I'm doing with my own life. I do respect. No, you don't. Not yet. But I need you to work toward it. I need you to catch yourself when you're about to judge me, when you're about to compare your life to mine and find mine lacking. I need you to truly believe that different doesn't mean less. I thought about Dr. Chen, about all our sessions working through exactly this. I'm working on it. Every day. I promise I'm working on it. And finally, her voice got very quiet. I need you to figure out who you actually are. Not the Instagram version. Not the corporate success story. The real you. Because I miss my sister, Sarah, the one who used to braid my hair and tell me stories and dance with me in the kitchen. The one who was kind and funny and real. I miss her. And I need to know if she's still in there somewhere. That broke me. I put my head in my hands and sobbed. I don't know if she is. I don't know who I am anymore. Then maybe that's what you need to figure out. And until you do, I think. She paused, and I could hear her own tears. I think we need to keep some distance. Not forever, but for now, while you work on yourself, while I heal from years of feeling like I'm not enough in your eyes. Emma, please. I love you, Sarah. I've never stopped loving you. But I can't keep setting myself on fire to keep you warm. I can't keep being the target of your insecurity and your need to feel superior. You were never the target. I was never trying to. Intention doesn't erase the impact. Dr. Patterson, my therapist, she helped me understand that. You didn't mean to hurt me, but you did. And those hurts don't disappear just because you're sorry now. I wiped my face, trying to compose myself. What if I come visit? What if I take Tien off work and come to Idaho and we talk face to face? Not yet. I'm not ready yet. I need more Tien. I need to see sustained change. Not just words. I need to know this is real. How long? I don't know. Months, maybe. However long it takes for both of us to heal enough to try again. But we will try again? Eventually? Another long pause. I hope so. I really do. But I can't promise anything. You broke something, Sarah. Something that was precious and fragile. And even if we fix it, even if we rebuild, it's never going to be the same as it was. She was right. We could never go back to being the girls we were, braiding each other's hair and sharing secrets. Too much had happened. Too much damage had been done. I'll wait, I said. However long you need. I'll keep working on myself. I'll keep trying to become someone who deserves to be your sister again. That's all I can ask for. Can I send the kids birthday presents? Or would that be overstepping? You can send presents, just nothing expensive or showy. Something thoughtful. Something that shows you actually know them. I don't know them. That's the problem. Then maybe start by asking me about them. Really asking. And really listening to the answers. Okay, tell me about them, please. And she did. For the next hour, Emma told me about my niece and nephew. About how Lily loved dinosaurs and wanted to be a paleontologist. About how Mason was shy but incredibly creative, spending hours drawing elaborate fantasy worlds. About their favorite foods, their fears, their quirks, their friendships. She told me about her bakery. About the wedding cake order that had finally put her business on the map. About the employee who was like family now. She told me about her life. And I really listened for maybe the first tie-in in years. When we finally hung up, it was late. I sat in my apartment, emotionally exhausted, but somehow feeling lighter than I had in months. The conversation hadn't fixed anything. Emma was still hurt. We were still broken, but it was a start. It was honest. It was real. And for the first tie-in, I felt like maybe, just maybe, we had a chance. The weeks after that phone call with Emma were the hardest and most transformative of my life. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about genuine self-examination. It doesn't just reveal one or two things you need to fix. It unravels everything. Every relationship. Every choice. Every piece of the identity you've built starts to look different when you're finally seeing clearly. I kept going to therapy. Dr. Chen and I dug deeper into the patterns id developed, the defense mechanisms id built, the ways id learned to measure worth and success. Tell me about your parents, she said one session. They're good people. Working class. Dad worked construction. Mom was a nurse. They worked hard to give us a good life. And how did they measure success? I thought about it. Really thought about it. They didn't, really. They cared about us being happy, being good people. But I think I felt like I had to justify their sacrifices. They worked so hard, gave up so much. If I just lived a normal life in Idaho, what was it all for? So you made their sacrifices about you, about proving you were worth it. I guess I did. And Emma? How does she factor into this equation? She didn't feel like she had to prove anything. She was just herself, content, happy. And I think part of me resented that. How dare she be happy with a Cienpo life? When I was killing myself to achieve more, Dr. Chen leaned forward. What if happiness is the achievement? What if Emma understood something you didn't? The question sat in my chest like a stone. I started making changes, real ones. I cut my work hours. Not dramatically, I was still committed to my job, but I stopped staying until 9 p.m. every night. I stopped answering emails on weekends. I started using my vacation days. Linda was supportive. You've been running yourself ragged for years. It's about Tiang you found some balance. But the harder change was social. I looked at my friendships, really looked at them, and realized most of them were transactional. We networked. We strategized. We posted photos together. But did we actually know each other? Did we care about each other beyond what we could offer? I started reaching out differently. Instead of want to remob drinks and talk about our Q3 strategies, I'd ask, "How are you really doing?" The shift was subtle but significant. Some people engaged with it. Others seemed uncomfortable, confused by the change in dynamics. Jessica stopped returning my calls. After a few attempts, I texted, "I get that we're in different places right now. I'm here if you want to talk, but I understand if you don't." She never responded, and I had to be okay with that. Had to accept that some relationships were only meant to last for a certain season of life. I started doing things I'd forgotten I enjoyed. I took a ceramics class at a community center. I went to a farmer's market on Sunday morning instead of planning Instagram content. I read books for pleasure, not for self-improvement or networking. I walked around the city without a destination, just observing, being present. One Saturday, I volunteered at a food bank. I showed up in jeans and an old t-shirt, no makeup, hair in a messy bun, and spent 4 hours packing boxes alongside people from all walks of life. Nobody cared who I was or what I did for a living. Nobody wanted to network or exchange business cards. We just worked together, made small talk, laughed at stupid jokes. At the end of the shift, an older woman who'd been working next to me said, "Same Tien next week?" "Yeah," I said. "I'd like that." I started calling my parents regularly, not the quick, dutiful calls where I rushed through the conversation. Real calls where I asked about their lives and actually listened. "Your father's knee is acting up again," my mom said. "He refuses to see a doctor about it." In the past, I would have immediately jumped to solutions. Make Hyan go to a specialist. I can send money for a good orthopedist. Instead, I said, "That must be worrying for you. How are you holding up?" The change in her voice was immediate. "Oh, honey, I'm okay. It's just hard watching Hien in pain, you know. But we're managing." "I'm sorry, Mom. That sounds stressful." We talked for over an hour. She told me about the church potluck drama, about her friend whose daughter was getting divorced, about the new restaurant in town that everyone was raving about. Normal, everyday things. Things I would have dismissed as boring 6 months ago. But now I understood these were the building blocks of a life, the connective tissue of a community. "When are you coming home?" she asked. "I don't know yet. I'm working on some things, but I want to visit soon, and when I do, I want to really be there. Not just passing through, checking boxes, really present. That would be nice, sweetheart. We miss you. I miss you too, Mom." At work, the changes were becoming more visible. My team dynamics shifted. People started coming to me with ideas, with problems, with questions not because they had to, but because they wanted to. We collaborated instead of me dictating. We built on each other's thoughts instead of competing. Marcus came to me one afternoon with a proposition. "There's a conference in Austin next month for emerging marketing leaders. I was hoping I could attend, but the budget is tight. I thought maybe, would you be willing to share some of the strategies that helped you ramo in your career? Like, mentor me?" Old me would've felt threatened, would've seen Hyan as competition, someone who might eventually take my job. New me saw an opportunity to pay forward the remace that Margaret had shown me. I'd be happy to. But Marcus, here's the thing, a lot of the strategies I used were wrong. I clean bed by stepping on people, by working constantly, by sacrificing everything personal for professional gain. You're smarter than I was. You can find a better way. His eyes widened. Wow. Thank you for being honest. And yes, you can go to the conference. I'll approve the budget. You deserve it. The Instara Mom account that had once consumed hours of my TN sat largely dormant. I posted occasionally, but without the careful curation, without the constant need for validation, my follower count stopped ramoing. Brands stopped reaching out, and I found I didn't care. One evening, scrolling through my feed, I saw a post from a lifestyle blogger I'd once envied. A perfect breakfast spread, morning light streaming through expensive curtains, a caption about ramatitude and abundance. The comments were full of praise, and all I could think was, is she happy? Really happy? Or is she like I was, performing happiness while feeling hollow inside? I unfollowed her, not out of judgment, but out of self-preservation. I couldn't go back to that version of myself, couldn't let that kind of performance infiltrate my consciousness again. May arrived, and with it came Lily and Mason's birthday. They'd be turning 7. I'd almost forgotten not the date, but the significance. I'd almost let another year pass without truly acknowledging these two people who shared my blood, my history, my sister. I called Emma. I want to send birthday gifts for the kids, but I don't know them well enough to choose. Can you help me? There was a pause, and I held my breath, unsure if she'd engage or shut me down. Okay, she said finally. Lily would love anything dinosaur-related, books especially. Mason likes art supplies, the fancy kind, not kids' stuff. He takes his drawing seriously. Thank you. And Emma, can I call again next week? Just to check in? Not about the kids, just about you? Another pause. Yeah, you can call. It was a small thing, a tiny crack in the wall between us, but it felt monumental. I spent an embarrassing amount of tie-in at bookstores and art supply shops trying to find the perfect gifts. Not expensive for the sake of being expensive, but thoughtful. A comprehensive dinosaur encyclopedia for Lily with stunning illustrations, a professional Ramad-colored pencil set, and a leather-bound sketchbook for Mason. I included notes with each. Dear Lily, your mom tells me you want to be a paleontologist. That's so cool. Can't wait to hear about your discoveries. Love, Aunt Sarah. And for Mason, dear Mason, your mom says you're an amazing artist. These are the same pencils professional illustrators use. I hope they help bring your imagination to life. Love, Aunt Sarah. I shipped them with plenty of tie-in to arrive before their birthday. And then I waited, anxious, hoping I'd gotten it right. Emma called 2 days after their birthday. The kids loved their gifts. Lily's been reading the dinosaur book every night. Mason cried when he opened the pencils. Good crying? The best crying, he said. Aunt Sarah sees me. Sarah. That's... Her voice caught. That's what I've been trying to tell you. We just want to be seen. I'm learning. Slowly, but I'm learning. We talked for 2 hours that day. She told me about the birthday party, about the cake she'd made, about how Tyler's parents had driven up from Boise, about the chaos and joy of 7-year-olds hyped up on sugar. And I listened, asked questions, laughed at her stories. When we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Connected. Actually connected to my family, to my roots, to the life I'd left behind. Dr. Chen and I talked about guilt in our next session. You're carrying a lot of it, she observed. Shouldn't I be? I heard a lot of people. There's a difference between guilt that motivates change and guilt that becomes its own identity. You're not just the person who hurt Emma or the bad sister. You're a complex person who made mistakes and is working to do better. Can you hold both of those truths? I thought about it. I don't know. It feels easier to just be bad, to accept that I'm the villain. Why is that easier? Because then there's a clear narrative. I was bad, now I'm trying to be good. Siempre. But you were never just bad. You were scared, insecure, overcompensating. You were trying to prove something to yourself, to your family, to the world. That doesn't excuse the harm you caused, but it contextualizes it. You're human, Sarah, flawed and complex, and capable of both hurt and healing. What if I fail? What if I slip back into old patterns? Then you catch yourself and course correct. Growth isn't linear. You're going to mess up. The question is, what will you do when you mess up? Will you defend and deflect? Or will you acknowledge and apologize? I thought about all the tienes Eid, defended myself, explained away my actions, refused to take responsibility. I want to do better. Then you will. It's that simple and that hard. In June, I made a decision that scared me more than anything I'd done in years. I called Linda into my office. I need to talk to you about something. She sat down, curious. What's up? I've been doing a lot of soul searching lately. About who I am, what I want, what actually matters to me. Okay, and I've realized that while I love aspects of my job, I've been using work as a distraction, as a way to avoid dealing with personal stuff, with relationships, with the parts of life that can't be measured in metrics and KPIs. Sarah, if this is about taking a mental health leave, we can absolutely. It's not that, or not just that. I think I need to make some bigger changes. I need to scale back my hours significantly. And I need to take an extended trip home, to Idaho, to reconnect with my family, to figure out who I am outside of this role. Linda was quiet for a moment. How extended? A month, maybe? I know that's a big ask. It is. But, she smiled. It's also exactly what you need. And honestly, it's what you've needed for a while. I've been waiting for you to realize it. You won't fire me? She laughed. No, Sarah. We're not going to fire you for prioritizing your mental health and your family. Well, figure out coverage. You've built a strong team. They can handle things while you're gone. And when you come back, well, talk about what a more sustainable role looks like for you. I felt tears prick my eyes. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for not giving up on yourself. I called Emma that night. I'm coming home, I said, for a month. In July. If that's okay, if you're ready. I could hear her breathing, could almost feel her weighing the decision. What will you do here for a month? I don't know yet. Help Mom and Dad with stuff around the house. Volunteer at the community center. Go to the Twins baseball games. Eat at your bakery every day, and finally, actually understand what you've built. Get to know Tyler. Be present. Just be there. No networking events. No content creation. No work emails. Well, I might check emails occasionally. But no. The point is to unplug. To be with family. To remember where I come from and who I am when I'm not performing. Sarah. Her voice was soft. I think that would be good. For both of us. Yeah? Yeah. Come home. Let's try this. Let's see if we can rebuild. So that's what I did. I bought a ticket to Boise, rented a car, cleared my calendar, set up auto responses, and prepared to spend a month in the place I'd spent a decade running from. And as I sat on the plane, watching Seattle disappear behind me, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not the frantic, striving hope of achieving the next goal, but the quiet, steady hope of coming home. The realization hit me somewhere over Montana. I wasn't the villain anymore. I had been. I could own that now. But villains could become something else. Could transform. Could do the work to earn redemption. And maybe, just maybe, I was on my way.